everyone. Today's session is about testing, and we'll cover testing in medical domain. Therefore, what you see here is that is the typical V model, which is part of or which you get as part of the framework when you use Codebeamer. Therefore, there's a user requirement spec, then there's a system requirement, system architecture, there's a software requirement, software architecture, and software design spec, and then there are test cases, which is the protocol. One is the system validation protocol, the software integration and verification protocol, and then the software unit verification protocol. And then you have the source code data management here. So what we will focus in today's session is more on the right hand side, which is the test cases. And the same thing is depicted here below, which is from Codebeamer, starting from standards and regulations and to user requirement spec, and then it all gets derived. And finally, you have three rounds of three types of testing of the protocols. One is the system validation, the other are the two verification. One is the unit verification, the other is the integration verification protocol. Now, for today's demo, what we will do is we will try to pick any one of them. Like we'll try to pick probably like a software design spec, and then we'll try to create multiple software integration verification protocols, and then which are nothing but test cases. And then we will create test runs for these test cases. And if it executes, it will be pass. If it fails, it will create a bug for it. So this is the scope for today's session, which is more on the testing side. Now, this is how the testing works in Codebeamer. You create test cases for requirement. Therefore, this is a starting point, and then you can create a test case. And then for the test case, you can create a test run, and then you can execute the run. And if the run passes, it's fine. But if the run fails, you create a bug. One type of flow. The second could be that you create a test set, and you put all the different test cases here, and then you create a test run for a test set, and then if it passes, it's fine. But if it fails, you create a bug for it. We will see both these scenarios. Now, for today's agenda, like what we'll do is we have already touched upon the V model and what is which we are going to cover. The second part, I will little bit walk through an existing project, like we have a project known as glucose meter, and then we will also use a new project where we will try to create a test case. We will try to generate a test case from an existing requirement. We'll try to create it manually. One test case is manually. Then we'll edit these test cases. We'll add parameter. There are two types of parameter I've taken. Therefore, just for illustration purpose, we will use two different parameter sets, and then we'll also create a test set, and then with two test cases, and then create test runs for it, and then we'll see how the test coverage looks like. So with this, let me move on to this. Let me just correct this. This is catheter. This is a new project, and then there's a old project, existing project. Therefore, as you see, this is a medical software engineering template, which is a project with all the data. Now, instead of going through each one, like you have standards and regulations, you have user requirement spec, then you derive system requirement, system architecture, then you have software requirement, software architecture, and then on the validation side, you have the system validation, and then you have the unit verification and the integration verification protocol. We will use any one of them for today's testing. Now, let me just quickly go to the system requirement. And probably like I can just show you a traceability browser. In this project, we don't have test runs, but just to give the feel of the whole V model. Therefore, as you see here, this is how the traceabilities are maintained. Like as you see here, they are system architecture specs here. Then you have the software architecture, which are derived from the system architecture. Then from the software architecture, you have the software design spec. And then from the software design spec, we have created software unit verification protocol. Now, from these test cases or this protocol, we can create test runs, execute them, and see the coverage. Okay, so this is from this project perspective. Now, the other thing I wanted to also show you here is this, that suppose if I pick up any one of these, suppose glucose algorithm, okay. Now, this is the system architecture. And if I go to any of the system requirements, suppose the system requirements, there are some 12 requirements or 13 requirements here. Now, if I go to test coverage, okay, I click quickly, but just to show you that there's an option here, test coverage. So what you're trying to do in this test coverage is that for system requirements, I'm just trying to see what is the test coverage. Now I can also remove the second level filter to make it a little bit more neater and cleaner to see. So now if you see here, there are system requirements, the total 12 system requirements. For 7 of them, you have test cases, and for 5, you don't have test cases. And then there are 7 which are incomplete. That means, we have never executed it and it is still not approved, and so on. And when it comes to these columns, that is passed, partially passed, failed, and blocked, these are more from the test run perspective. Now, even though we have 7 test cases, but there's no test runs which are created for those test cases. And that's why you see this as 000. Now, what is passed? If I create a test run, and if the test run executes successfully, then it is passed. If it fails, then it is failed. Partially passed is that, if a test case suppose has got test steps, if any one test steps fails, then it is failed. But within test steps, if you have, test parameters, and suppose for some parameter, like for example, temperature or pressure, for whatever, as during the testing, you're not able to reach one of the temperature parameter, right? Therefore, you will try to skip them. And when you skip them, those becomes partially passed. And we'll see this in today's demo. Now, once you're looking at this picture, you can also expand this below one, and you can see all the 7 requirements here, like all the 12 requirements, and then you can expand and see all the 12 requirements. And then underneath each one of them, you can also see which has got test cases and which do not have test cases. Like for example, if I'm expanding everything, you can see here that for these requirements, like SR means SR means system requirements. And for these system requirements, you have a verification validation protocol, system validation protocol. You also have a system validation protocol for it. And it says very clearly this is not run yet. And that is the reason why it is marked as incomplete. Like it says 4 test cases, coverage analysis is 4, but it is not, these are not executed at all because they are 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 one here, and there are 2 at this level, and then there's 1 at this level, and so on. This is how the test coverage report will look like when you execute it. Then you will also see the run. You will also see pass and fail. And under the coverage analysis also, you will see pass and fail. That this will be more of a complete report. I wanted to start with this existing project so that you get an idea about test coverage and the typical traceability metrics, which we just now saw here in traceability browser. With this background, now let me go to a empty project. Therefore, if I go here, this is an empty project, and there's hardly anything like this. There's 0 system requirement. There's 1 software requirement. There's 1 design spec, and so on. Right now, if I go here, suppose in the design spec, and for this design spec, I can create couple of design specs just for today's demo. Therefore, what I will do is let me just rename this and just call it as a demo software design. So let us type it also software design spec. Okay, so that it's easy that you can relate to what I'm doing. Then this is suppose one of them, and I hit save, and then I create couple more just for just to create some more data here. So this is a second software design spec, and then I create a third one. You actually will be creating a proper one, but I'm just for a demo purpose. I think you can understand what I'm trying to do here. It's just for illustration and a demo purpose. Therefore, I have now four design spec. Now for each one of this, I want to create test Therefore, just to relate it to this diagram, what I'm trying to do is I went ahead with software design spec, and for this either I can create a unit verification or I can create an integration verification protocol, and these are test cases. So therefore, how do you do it? It's very easy way, like you can just right click here and say generate test cases, and then it will show you based on the data model that you can either generate software integration verification protocol, or you can generate a software unit verification protocol. Now go ahead and click this, for example. Therefore, I created one. As soon as you click and create, it creates a test case, and what it does is it just adds a prefix test in front of this name. I can go ahead and create for this as well. Like I can just go ahead and say I want to create for this, and I want to create for this too as well. Now I'll create one more, and then I'll also show you how you can create without doing this. Suppose you want to create manually for this one, for software, for demos software design spec 4. So what you can do is you can go here and say that I want to create a software integration and verification protocol, which is this one. I go here and click this, and the three which I created automatically are listed here. And as you see here, it just adds a prefix test and then a name. I can create the fourth one here. Therefore, I create a fourth one and I call it as test software design spec 4, for example. Okay, and then I click save. So now I have 4 test cases, but the difference is for all these test cases, you have an upstream because we generated it from the design spec. But in the last one, you don't have any upstream, you don't have any downstream because this was just created in isolation from here. It's the manual way, right? What you can do is now the easier way is this, that I can go back to my software design spec and I can go to the fourth one. Now here, as we covered in our earlier session, how to use Codebeamer, there are 3 tabs here. The first tab is a library tab where I can access all various other projects, and I can also access this current project, which is WFN demo. So I go here to WFN demo and I go to design and control, or I can go to verification and validation, and I can go to this integration verification protocol. I see here 4, and now I know that this one I create for the fourth one. Therefore, I can drag and drop on this, and I can see that, okay, I want to create a reference to this last one. Once I drag and drop, now if I go here, I can close this one. Now, if you see here, if I go here, I will have a downstream here, and this is a test case for this last one. So now you have a test case for all these four items. Okay. Now, if I go to test coverage, as I said, this was test coverage window. If I go to test coverage, it shows me that the software design spec is selected. And it says that, from the next test filter, I want to see the test case and I want to see the test run. And on the coverage side, this menu is more to see what are you interested on. I'm saying that I'm interested on all of this, like any of this. Okay, how many test runs are you interested in? I said 10. Actually, I don't have any now, and I hit OK. Therefore, I get this picture. What this picture says is this, that there are four test cases, because I created 4 test cases just now in front of you, and all have a 4 test cases as well, and that's why it is all covered. It is covered 100%, but it is incomplete because we have just created a test case, but we have not done anything beyond that. And the test case also was automatically generated, so therefore even we have not even updated those test cases. So it's incomplete, and these are all empty because we have not done the execution of it. And then I go back again to click this, and these are the 4 ones which we are talking about. Now what we will do is, with this, I will now go ahead and go to each of these test cases. Therefore, the easier way to go to the test cases, I go down, I click this, and then I go to document view so that I can see all the 4 test cases here, which are integration verification protocols. Okay. Now for each one, I want to create test runs. But before I create test runs, I want to edit them. I want to add this test steps. Therefore, this view is not a very good view to to update a test case. Therefore, I just right click and I open in a new tab. so that it's easy for you. Like this was the, sorry, this is the one which I was working on. I just opened in a new tab. Now here I go and hit edit because I just created blindly this test case. Therefore, I need to add some pre-actions, some post-actions. I'm not doing it for this, but I'll add PA1, PA2, just for the sake of demo. And then you can add what is the pre-action, what is the post-action after the test case is done. This is the test case name. I just leave it as it is. If I want to add a description, I can add the descriptions here, and then I can add test parameter. Now I have uploaded two templates here, two parameters template here. One is a glucose meter, and the other is a PDSVISION underscore test parameter. These are like just illustrative purpose. I just select one of them. Now the one which I've selected for the first one, it is test PDSVISION underscore test parameter. How it looks like is this. I just added three columns like temperature, pressure, and oxygen level, for example. And then I have given some details. What it means is like when I run this test one, it will run 3 times, one for each row. And it has to consider this data point during testing. So that is the meaning of test parameter, or why I'm trying to do this. Means I'm trying to parameterize my test with respect to the data. So that is what I'm doing it here. Now in test step, now since I have uploaded a parameter, I also want to say what I want to do with those. So therefore I'm saying set this temperature, pressure, and O2. This is a variable, a macro, which is going to read from the Excel. So therefore, as I showed you that there are three columns here. Therefore, for each column, I am just saying that okay, create a test step. When you do the test step, make sure that we cover each row of this Excel sheet. And then what is the expectation? Now, again, this will vary from all user perspective. I say, okay, the glucose meter or in this case, the catheter should work. So therefore, this is just for an illustration example, but you can have a real scenario in your case. And then I say, okay, like apart from reading from this Excel, also, as a next step, I would like to reconfirm that it has worked. Therefore, perform for the above specified temperature and pressure, and put provide details. Okay, should pass. Okay. Now things like this. Okay, therefore, whatever you expect the result, you can put the genuine one. But again, this is just an illustration. Now with this, I save this. That means my first test case is ready. Now, whenever you want to execute a test case, it's always better that you should accept this. If you do it in a new state and such state, it is in a draft mode, and either you can do it from here or you can do it from here. Anywhere is okay. I click this, then I need to update some like whom I want to assign and all that. I'm just skipping all these steps and I'm saying that okay, save. I am done with accepting this test case. Okay. This is one of them, and now if you see here, it has read the Excel and it has pulled some values, and then it has put this values like 20, 20 25, 30, which was there in this Excel sheet, 20, 25, 30, and so on. Okay, therefore for each row, the test will repeat. That is the meaning here. And these are the two test steps for this. There is no test runs. We have not executed yet. I've just done the setup for test one. I will do the same thing for test 2 and 3. If I close this, I go back to the next one. Again, I open it in the new tab. And then again, I edit this also. Now, in this case, I can just say reaction as PA2, for example. PA2. These are all subjective fields. Therefore, it is all you can write what all the pre-actions you want to do before you start this, and what are the post-action you want to do after the test case is executed. And then you can define a description what this test case is meant for. And again, in the test parameter, this time I choose the next Excel sheet, that is this glucose meter. Now this looks like this. Like I'm just trying to see that whether I'm doing this testing for normal fasting or for random collection, and whether it's for diabetes patient or non-diabetes patient, and so on. Therefore, and then and so therefore I selected this glucose meter. Now for test step, I need to use the parameters which are there in this glucose meter.excel file. Therefore, I have just prepared this like, just to save time. And I just copy this and paste it here so that these parameters will pop up when we do the testing. And here, the expected result, I will say that, the glucose should be 120 mg, for example, okay, mg deciliter, okay, for example, again, okay. And then I save it. And if I want, I can add another step just to say perform this, but it is not required, but I just add it just to show you that, or just to create some more data should pass. Okay. So again, in this case, also two steps, and then I used a different parameter, and then I go ahead and save. So my test case 2 is also ready. Okay. Now I go here and I also accept this so that it's better to have all test case in accepted mode, not in the open or draft mode. And if I go here, you can see here open parameters, and it has printed this this value because I'm going to use this open parameter value list. And in test steps, it is whatever I have provided, these are updated here. Now with this, again, I close this and I go to the next one. Now for test 3 and 4, I am not going to do much. What I will do is I will just go and say a new tab, and I will just accept it. I'm not going to create any test step, just to show you the difference. Therefore, in the test 3 and 4, I'm not creating any test step. Okay, I'm just accepting it. That means, there should be pre-action, but you can define your pre-actions the way you want. But these are all subjective, but I'm not defining any parameters or any test steps here. So this is the only difference. Okay, and once I updated, I accepted it, I close this. Then I go to the next one, again, open in a new tab. And then I again go and accept this. You can again define, these are all subjective things, but you can again define them. And then again, no parameter, no test steps. I just close them as a, just a simple one-liner test case. Now with this, what I have done is I have updated all 4 of them, and all 4 of them are now ready to be executed. But before I execute this 1 and 2, I want to run as an individual test case. But 3 and 4, I want to run them as a test set. But once more, if I go here, what I want to do is, as per this picture, what I want to do is I want to run 1 and 2 just like this, like I will run a test case, and I'll create a test run for them, and then I will execute them. But for 3 and 4, this will be 3 and 4. For this, I would create a test set so that you also see how to create a test set. And then I will use this test set. I'll create a test run for a test set, and then I will execute. So that's the only difference. For 1 and 2, I have created a parameter and I have 2 test steps. But for 3 and 4, there is no test step, no parameter, and I'm just putting in a test set. Okay. Now with this, I go back again. Therefore, I need to create a test set. Therefore, I go to the tracker again. And here I will have a test set, like test sets here. So I go here and I create a test set. Therefore, I click a new and I call it as, demo test set. Let me call it as a glucose meter, for example. Okay. 1. Okay. This is a test set. Now I need to add test sets in this. Therefore, I can either create a new test set, or if you see here, I can also navigate and look at other tests what I have. Suppose I created this one, right? Now in this one, I also have some test steps. Therefore, I can also borrow test steps from from the fields here. So this is more to borrow things, but I'm not borrowing it from now. Therefore, I can otherwise borrow from here, drag drop on this. But what I will do is this, that instead of using this test, or sorry, I can do it from here as well, but I wanted to drag and drop from the other window. But anyway, sorry for it. I can just drag and drop from here because I want to borrow this 3 and 4. That was the purpose. So I'm creating a test set and I'm just pulling, this 2 as a test cases within this test set. Okay. and then I save this. So my test set is also ready, and test set also I should have it in a released mode. Therefore, I just release this test set. Therefore, what you see in test set is a test set contains test cases, and there is no test runs because I've not executed it, and I'm going to execute this as well. So now I have all the things ready with me. That is, I have two test cases. I have one test set which has got two test cases. Okay. Now I'm going to execute. Before I execute, again, to go and see the coverage part. Therefore, if I go to software design spec and go here and say test coverage, there should not be any difference in the test coverage because I have not done any execution now. So therefore, as you see here, that the test there are 4 test cases and they are 4 covered, but there is no execution. Therefore, all these are 0. Okay. Now I go back and I go to the test. Therefore, I go to the easiest way would be that I go here, software integration and validation protocol, integration verification protocol. Now for each one, I create a test run and then run. Therefore, first one, I go here, I create a test run. Therefore, I click here and then I create a test run. Therefore, for the test run, I marked it as a formal run. I am not assigning any users or roles and groups, but the meaning is this that either I can assign a role or I can assign users in a role in a very simple way. Therefore, I just go with this that I'll create one test run for each individual user and all the members of the selected role. Right now, it is only me, therefore it doesn't matter. Or I can select this. There's only me who's going to run this. Therefore, I'll just select this and then there's also something as test configuration, which I will just touch upon. But this is again, more about like it's again it's not, it doesn't drive things, but it is like, for example, this glucose meter thing. I want to test only the diabetes patient. Okay, therefore I will have some configuration for diabetes patient, and only these runs should be done only for that configuration. You can have different set of configurations, and then you can choose which test case you want to run for which test configuration. Okay, this is more about environment in which it has to run. Now with this, I save this. Therefore, I created a test run for the first test case, and then I give it for approval. Once it gets approved, it's ready for execution. Therefore, I just click approve because we don't want to go through the workflow in this. Workflows all can be changed the way you want. But now it says it's ready for execution. And this is the time when you hand it over to a test engineer, and the test engineer comes and does the test run. So therefore, I go and click this run, and now I run. So when I run this test case, this is about test case 1. Because test case 1 is following this Excel sheet. So therefore, what happens is it has got 2 steps, that is, set 20, 80, and 88, which was set up like this: set temperature, pressure, and oxygen level. And the result was expected was true and false, and so on, right? And now on the top, as you see here, is 1 of 3. Why? Because there were 3 rows in the Excel. Therefore, for each row, it is going to ask this. So now for the first one, I say, okay, means, actual result, I just say pass. For everything, I say pass. Okay, therefore I say pass here. Then for the next step, if I say a pass, this step is passed. Second step is passed. Okay. Then any comment, I just say pass. Okay. Now the next one, again, I say this is also pass. And then I need to put the actual result, but I say just pass, pass. And now in this case, just to show you some difference, for whatever reason, I felt that, in this case, setting temperature 30 and pressure 120 and oxygen level 92, we couldn't find a patient like this, or we couldn't find a data set like this. And for this reason, we would like to skip this. We'll not like to give any result. Therefore, in such case, I can just click here and say skip this, and I skip that. Whenever we do such things, it will show here that 66% passed because I did 2 out of 3, which was passed, and 1 of them was skipped. It was not failed, but it is skipped. So therefore, overall result is partially passed. Therefore, I just wanted to show you this. That's the reason why I did this. but this is about first test run. Now I go back and go to the next one. Sorry, it is already opened here. I close this one. Now I go to the next one. In this case, again, I go here and then open it. Again, I need to create a test run. So therefore, from a test case, you create a test run. I make it a formal run. I pass it to myself as owner. Again, the configuration I choose as diabetes patient, and then I save. So my test run is created. Now it will go through an approval process. I skip that approval process. I just say approve because I have the rights. Otherwise, I can assign to someone to approve. But since it's me, I'm just approving it myself. Now, when I do a test run in this case, if you see here, okay, here because I have set up in such a way that it'll ask me all these parameters and let me populate them. Yeah, it has used a different mode, but let me just update this one. Therefore, let me say here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, for example, okay, and just save it. And in this case, since this test case did not actually way I wanted to make it work, it did not work like that because actually I wanted it to read the same way as this one, but I choose the wrong choice. I can explain you that later. But because of which it is asking me to uh, provide an input for these values. So therefore, there are three options. Either I can read from the Excel, or I can read the first line and give a form to be filled, which is the case which is happening now here. Now, just because this has happened, and I've already walked you through the test parameter use case, in this use case, what I'll do is I'll mark it as a fail so that you will also see a result which is failed. Okay. Therefore, in this case, I mark it as fail. Okay, there are two steps. Therefore, I need to mark for each step. Now, again, to make it a little bit more, to cover more use cases for this demo, one test step is fail. The second test step is pass. Okay, so therefore, what it means is the overall test case is still failed. Okay, so let me just do this and just show you this window. Like since one of the test step has failed, therefore overall the test case is failed. Therefore, in such case, you can also create a report the bug from here directly, or you can say that I will create the bug later. We'll create the bug later. You can create you can click here and create the bug, and then you are done with it, and the bug will automatically get linked to this. But you can also leave it, and then later you can go and create a bug and then link the bug to this failed test case. Okay, done. So this is also finished, but it is failed. Therefore, even though there are two steps, one step has failed, and that's why this has failed. Therefore, if I expand this, it will show you what was the fields which I've populated, and it will also show you like what happened. Therefore, it says very clearly the step one was there, step one was failed, and the step two was passed. And this was the time at which it was executed. Okay. Now I close this again. Now I move to the next one. Now these three are 3 and 4. These two test cases, I have made it part of a test set. So therefore, I can very well execute a test set, right? So therefore, in this case, I will go to this test set rather than executing each one of these test cases. If I go to this test set, so now I'm in a test set. As you see here, this is a test set. So now for this test set, I can also create a test run. Therefore, I go ahead and create a test run. And in this test run, again, I choose formal. Again, since I'm the only one here, and then I choose this diabetes patient. There's no description required here, and I click save. Now I create a test run. Now, again, I need to go through an approval process for this test run. This test run is for this test set. So therefore, I skip the whole workflow. I just go ahead and approve this, save this. Now my test run is ready for execution. Therefore, I can go and click this test run. Now, one more thing which we'll cover in a different demo session. Suppose if you want to run these test cases in an external tool and you want to get the results in an external tool, and then you can import that result back into this. So therefore, you can create a test run, let the person execute in the lab tool, and once the test results are ready, then they can use this and upload the Excel so that the whole work is done. But in this case, I'm going to again run in the Codebeamer itself. I go and run from here, and then as you see here, there are two steps here because there are two test cases here. So in this test set, therefore there are two test cases. Now the first test case I mark it as pass, and the other one I can just mark it as a block. And again, I can make a report for it. But again, I'm just trying to cover all different use cases. I would say will create later. This create later, and then save this. Now this is done, but as you see here, because I blocked it, I executed one test case which was passed. The second test case I blocked it. Therefore, overall result is again blocked. It is not failed. It's just blocked because for some reason the environment was not ready enough and I could not do it. It's like therefore I just blocked it because I couldn't. There was no way to do this test case. Okay. Now with this, I have executed all the test cases. So therefore, when I go back and look at my software design spec, and this is my software design spec. And for this, if I want to look at the test coverage, now test coverage is for requirement to test. Therefore, you can go to any place. You can go to system requirement and click this set test coverage. I am doing it for this because this is the one which I selected for the demo, but you can select a system requirement and then look from their perspective as well. So I go here and click a test coverage. As you see on the top, because I selected this initially, therefore this is what gets picked. If I want, I can also add the second level here and I can add what all should be added. But I skip this and I say, OK, show me the test coverage. Now, as you see here, I have only four system four this software design spec, and all are covered because for all I created a test case for each one of them, and they all complete because I also accepted them. I also created a test runs and so on. And for test runs, it says here very clearly that I did 4 runs and the percentage pass is 25%, 25%, partially pass 25, fail 25, block 25. Why? Because if you remember, the first test case had parameters and I went ahead and did pass for all. Okay, therefore it was passed fully. The second one, I skipped. Okay, one step or something I skipped. So whenever I skipped a parameter, it is marked as partial. And in some I made it fail, and in the last one I made it blocked. So that is how it is whole distributed. Okay. Now the other way to look at this is, and what you see here is a filtering one. Therefore, if you want, you can just click this and make the screen big. You can you can hide the filtering option, or you can refilter and again hide it and so on. Okay. But below section, it will show you in detail. Therefore, for this software design spec, it shows me the 4 design spec which I created. Now I can expand each one of them and see what is happening here. So therefore, as you see, the first one was partially passed, and it shows very clearly that this was the test spec, that is spec number test case, which was this one. This is the test run, and what is the result of the run. And then the same thing for second one. This is the spec. For this spec, we had this software integration verification protocol, which is test case. And for this test case, there's a test run. In this case, all failed. In this case, it is passed. In this case, it is blocked. It is just the way I was running. Therefore, that is how it is. It has been shown here. I did not, updated the assign window and all. Otherwise, it could have shown you like, run by my name. I just left the forms empty because it was just a demo. I don't want to fill the form, but typically you assign it and then you go through the workflow. Once it is approved, once it is ready for execution, then the test engineer will log in and the test engineer will execute, and then his name will appear here. Now, overall, it says there are 4 test cases. There is 1 test case for this one test case for this one test case for this, 1 test case for this, and it shows where we stand on this. So this is about the test coverage. And we also looked at how to create a test case, how to execute the test case.